Okay, great. So just to get started here, so I'm John Passalacqua. I'm the CEO of First Phosphate Corporation. We are a company that is soon to be listed early next week on the Canadian Securities Exchange under ticker symbol PHOS. That's PHOS, Peter, Harry, Oscar, Sam, like PHOS for phosphate. So I'll just move forward here to my next slide. Actually, I'll start to let you know that we're a phosphate for the LFP battery industry. Now, the lithium iron phosphate battery industry in North America, as you know, it's very topical. Everybody knows the news about Ford trying to do a deal with CATL in China, which is the manufacturer of LFP batteries in China. And I think you've seen all that in the news and what's going on. And there's questions about, dealing with companies outside of North America. So First Phosphate could not be better positioned with that news, because what we're looking to do is to build a supply chain locally in North America, starting from the mine all the way the upstream and all the way to the midstream, right to the battery producer. And we'll explain that in a second. But first, just to start, the LFP battery industry, as you can see, is going to be a massive industry. It's 10 billion right now, and it's going to 50 billion plus in 2028. First Phosphate is going to be the only public company listed anywhere worldwide to be focused fully on phosphate and the LFP battery. And the LFP battery is starting to represent about 50% of all EV chemistries, battery chemistries out there. But 90% of these batteries are made in China. And there's a real trend now with the US Inflation Reduction Act to get that production back here in North America. The serious problem, though, is that, there's a serious shortage of battery grade phosphate, that's phosphoric acid, in North America. And even rock phosphate, which is the precursor to that, does not basically exist in Europe. And it's depleting in North America. North American mines are sedimentary deposit. They're used for fertilizer. There's no more than 10 to 20 years left in that. They cannot economically produce high levels of ESG grade purified phosphoric acid. But First Phosphate's at a really good position. We hold some very strategic land claims in the Saguenay region of Quebec, in northern eastern part of North America. And we can produce high quality phosphate that's extracted from igneous rock. We can do so at the Port of Saguenay, and we plan to vertically integrate, as I was saying earlier, all the way from the upstream down to the midstream. And we plan to function on all the ESG standards and the low carbon footprint. We've assembled a world-class management team, and we have a rare opportunity. It's a once-in-a-lifetime generational opportunity to go from mine all the way to LFP cathode active material. And if we're able to do that, we solve the problem of what's going on in the US with the friendly onshoring, because that cathode active material can then go into the battery cells and the battery packs. And there are other people who can do that in North America, and then we will be completely onshored. We have major partners on board. We have the ability to manage all of our materials in situ. And we have manageable mine size very close to the Port of Saguenay, which is a partner, by the way. And that allows us to keep our CapEx focused on value add. And we also have important secondary recoveries in the deposit, which are titanium and iron, the iron actually being the component of the LFP. So again, if I just had to summarize it, very strong geographic advantage for First Phosphate. We're in a friendly mining jurisdiction. We're at the electrical vehicle hub of North America, one of them, which is Quebec. We have strong government support there. We meet the Inflation Reduction Act. And we've got we've already far along with getting our mine permitted with the 43-101, and now we're moving into the PEA, and we have lots of blue sky properties where a lot of extra phosphate is. The real secret sauce to all of this is the igneous rock phosphate that we have in Quebec, and I'll go into that a little bit more when I tell you about world deposits. But it's it's amongst 1% of the purest phosphate in the world, and you can convert that to a very high amount of purified phosphoric acid. About 88% of the concentrate can be made into purified phosphoric acid, whereas when you're dealing with sedimentary deposits, you might only be at 10 or 20%. We've got, not only can we create a purified phosphoric acid at some point, but we can create a very strong, what I would call battery grade plus, because we'll be fully on the traceable, ethical ESG side, and we'll be a secure supply source for North America, for North American EVs that, auto manufacturers or others can count on, just-in-time principles of manufacture. We're looking at, completely environmentally clean, circular, advanced mining and refining methods. We are solventless recovery, and we're able to recycle our gypsum slag piles when we make phosphoric acid. Unlike what the case is right now with the sedimentary deposits that are posing a lot of problems, especially in certain parts of North America. And we have clean Quebec hydro, which is very important to make all this happen as well. So this is really where the devil in the detail is, and I really want to spend a good amount of time on here and really explain this. So what we see here in blue, that's the the first phosphate blue. What we see here in green is where we would hand off to other industry players. And what you see here collectively is what we call the ESG-driven LFP battery ecosystem that we want to be a major part of here in North America. So as you may know, when we talk about batteries and such, we're always hearing about these gigafactories, right? We're always talking right in here, gigafactory. But very few people actually have already figured out what you do down here, right? So a lot of what we have is tops down kind of thinking, but we don't have any bottoms up. And that's why you're hearing everywhere, well, we have all these great gigafactories that are going to start, but where are the raw materials for them? And this is the problem that Ford is running into, right? They would like to make a car in North America that's electric, fully electric. And they would like a battery for it. They'd like an LFP battery for the advantages of the LFP battery. But then the problem is down here, right? This doesn't exist in North America. They cannot friend-shore this. They've got to go to China for all of this. Big, big, big problem. So this is something that we started thinking about, over 8 months ago. And it's really interesting to see that now everything that we thought is coming to fruition with this major headline before just the other day. So what are we trying to do here? So we understand that down the road here, auto manufacturers need to run just-in-time systems. Just-in-time meaning, you need all your elements for the car to be ready for you, to be sourceable, to be, reliable, to be homologated. And just right, so that your manufacturing process will be the same every time, right? And we saw that the other day with GM making an investment in Lithium America, making an investment right over here, right at mine site. So what we're trying to do for phosphate is, create what will be, a nice package for, downstream producers. So at the mine, we will extract phosphate. It usually comes out of the mine at about 5 to 10% in the ore. And then at the mine site, you beneficiate that. You beneficiate the phosphate up to about, we're able to get it close to 41%. That's extremely high. Sedimentary deposits around the world don't get higher than 22 to 32, 34%. But we beneficiate because we have the igneous rock to 41%. The theoretical purity of apatite, which is the host rock for phosphate, is 42%. So you can imagine to what degree we get to. And we've been able to do that through good work with our partners at SGS and Queen's University in Ontario. So once we have that beneficiated rock, what we do is, we will either be able to toll process this with a partner who can move it to purified phosphoric acid. And this is where the pinch point is going to be, right? A lot of people have, mines, a lot of people have beneficiation, but the purified phosphoric acid, we're going to have an extreme squeeze in North America, similar to the squeezes that we're talking about on the lithium side. Nobody seems to know that yet. Nobody seems to be aware of this. But the more people that learn about our story are really understanding it. So the purified phosphoric acid, we can either toll process that with a partner, or we can make our own purified phosphoric acid plant, which we'd like to do eventually at the port of Saguenay. In Quebec, which is a port it's got space, capacity, all the industrial setup that we need. It's about 140 kilometers from our mine, from what will be our mine. Now, once we have the purified phosphoric acid, what you need to do is you need to create LFP cathode active material, and that requires basically phosphoric acid, iron, but in a specified format, and also lithium hydroxide, and then you create LFP cathode active material. You need a lot of hydroelectricity to do that. So we're very lucky to be in Quebec, where we have the hydroelectric dams, the cheapest, greenest power in the world. And then after that's complete, then you pass on this cathode active material to the battery cells and battery pack producers. They make their battery. It goes into the EV. The EV drives around. The LFP battery, it's got one of the longest duration times on it, the life cycles. And then eventually, it could be easily recycled. It could be recycled back into other batteries or into fertilizer, as because phosphate is a very big fertilizer commodity as well. So now I've given you sort of the big picture of, where First Phosphate is going, why we're doing it, why we want to, occupy the upstream and the midstream, and just put it on the silver platter for the downstream, right? So we don't have all the problems that we're having right now with supply sources. Okay, so, this will look forward into what we're looking to do here in 2023. So on the exploration side, we're going to continue surface sampling and advancing some of the properties that we have with, tremendous potential for phosphate, 1,500 square kilometers of claims in Quebec, all with phosphate bearing rock on it. We did a really meticulous job in selecting all those lands, and we've occupied all the lands between the port of Saguenay and about 300 kilometers north of there. It was a very special operation to do that. Also, we're going to start greenfield drilling at a property where we found very high grades of phosphate on surface, which is Béchamp-Lamarche. On the extraction and beneficiation side, this is kind of, where you take it out of the mine and you create a concentrate. We're completing our metallurgical study, which is going to show that we can get the phosphate up to 41% concentrate. We're completing a study with the Queen's University that will show that, Lac de l'Orignal, which is our flagship property, is suitable for the LFP battery industry. We're commencing our PEA, and that's basically the next level after a 43-101. We start to get into the logistics and the economics around the mine. And we're exploring putting into place immediately a concentration pilot plant that will show how we beneficiate the phosphate ore. And we're looking right now at some offtake agreements for a portion of our concentrate, which will help us into cash flows as we start to develop more towards the LFP cathode active material. On what is the advanced processing, which is basically, moving towards purified phosphoric acid. So you've got your mine, you've got your ore, you beneficiate the ore, and then here we move to, purified phosphoric acid. So we're beginning a pilot process of creating phosphoric acid with a partner that's soon to be revealed. And we're also evaluating leading partners in the space to work with. On the LFP cathode active material side, so once you have the phosphoric acid produced, you need to make the cathode active material. Again, we're evaluating partnerships with various LFP cathode material technology providers. There's a few of them in the world. They're very specialized. You have to know who you're dealing with. And we're evaluating, creating all the material supplies that we need and partners in situ at the Port of Saguenay, Quebec, to flush out efficiencies and to start a homologation process and a pilot plant process there eventually. Facilities and logistics, we're beginning the process around our business planning. We're starting to explore efficiencies and how to bring all these pieces here together, all 3 or 4 of them. We're working on circular economy developments. Basically, we're seeing how we flush out costs out of all this and how we create circularity in there. And we're working strong with local community as well. So, that's kind of the end of the high level on First Phosphate. I realize we got about 10 minutes here before we get into questions. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to move right down here to the global phosphate market. I want to show you some things that really interest me. And I hope they will interest you too. I find this stuff fascinating. It's just, a travel around the world in phosphate. Okay, so here we go. So this is the world. We all know the world. And this is, sedimentary deposits are red and igneous deposits are blue. So sedimentary deposits, meaning, it's rock that has accumulated over the years. And blue, igneous, meaning it's rock that prevails really from, magma, volcanic type of activity. So as you can see, 95% of the world's phosphate is in red, right? And about 90% of that is here in the Middle East, North Africa, mostly in Morocco. And we said that this kind of sedimentary deposit is good for fertilizer, which requires just one step in purification to get rid of all the trace elements that are in it. There's a lot of uranium, thorium, cadmium, selenium, and other heavy metals in the sedimentary deposits. They're very tough to process up to phosphoric acid, but they do a great job for fertilizer. And 90% of the world's need for phosphate is still fertilizer. But when you get into the igneous deposits, it's something very special. You've got 2 types of igneous deposits. You've got carbonatites and you've got anorthosites. Carbonatites are about 80%, 4% of the world's phosphate. So you find them mostly here in the Kola Peninsula of Russia, and you find them here in Brazil. There's some in Africa. They're difficult to access. But then in Quebec, we've got something that's very special. We've got anorthosite rock. And what does that mean? Anorthosite rock is a form of igneous rock, but it's even purer than the carbonatites. The carbonatites are much cleaner than the sedimentary rocks, but they sometimes hold rare earth materials in them. The anorthosites are even cleaner. So we're sitting here on our claims in Quebec within 1% of the world's cleanest phosphate. And inside of North America, that's going to need phosphate not only for food, but especially for the LFP battery especially high phosphate that can be scaled up to high purity phosphoric acid very easily. We can get 88% of it up to purified phosphoric acid. And then you've got, sedimentary mines here in southeastern US and in the Northwest as well. But they're sedimentary. It's difficult for them to scale up to a lot of high purity phosphoric acid. Very few of them do it. And all of it is really, destined towards fertilizer. So that's kind of the world as we see it for phosphate. What's even more interesting is when you start to look at, the reserves and, who's doing what. So, this is Morocco up here. Morocco's got, anywhere from 85 to 90% of the market. This is how much they produce. They not only export to Europe, which doesn't have their own source of phosphate, but they also export to North America because we don't have enough in North America. And they export to South America, Brazil especially. So that little bit of igneous that you see in Brazil, it never comes out. It stays internal. And then they export to Australia. And they're starting to export to China as well, because China has now put export restrictions on its phosphate because of agricultural need of the growing population, and also because of this LFP battery, because they produce almost all the LFP battery in the world. So they need phosphate for that. So as you can see, it's really a game of, it's starting to remind me a little bit of oil, isn't it? It's a game of, the Middle East and North Africa. And it seems like we got a little bit of an OPEC going here. And so, it's a market where you need to be very careful, because in all the other parts of the world, it's starting to deplete. China is depleting. North America is depleting. There's not enough of it in South America. So, and now with the issues in Russia, that can't come out. So it's really a game of Morocco, and, kudos to them for doing such a great job in establishing their industry. But, it puts everybody else in the world at a serious disadvantage. So it's very important for us to develop these assets here inside of Quebec for North America. If you look at what's going on here in North America, this is just US, which is the only country in North America that produces phosphate. But, it's a steep decline here. This is, 20, 30-year decline. Okay, so then we go, what's going on in the world of phosphate in terms of price? Well, okay, so this is the curve of peak phosphate. This was a curve that was established even before we talked about the LFP battery, already predicting peak phosphate to occur by 2040. Big misnomer out there is you'll hear a lot of people saying, there's no peak phosphate. There's lots of phosphate in North Africa and, Morocco and such. And that's true. There's no peak phosphate there for now. But there's peak phosphate everywhere else in the world that you look, right? Every single other country, if you go up here, is kind of, hitting or beyond their peak phosphate, right? So it's a dependency that's starting to develop. And then if you look here, what's been going on with phosphate since the 1960s, right? What have we been doing? We've just been consuming more and more phosphate. And this is all due to, growing population around the world. And if you look at this trend, like this is what we're going to need for agriculture, right? So it's shocking what phosphate is going to do. You just can't feed the world without, having that 5 to 1, 10 to 1 production increase that you get through fertilizers, right? So phosphate is a major base of the fertilizer, together with ammonium, nitrogen, and potash. Here we see the price of, Morocco phosphate. This is over the last 2 years. It's gone up steadily to about $300 US per ton, and it's holding steady. That's partly due to supply constraints, and also, the war in Ukraine is affecting that. So then, now let's look at, what is the LFP battery in terms of, phosphate, and what's going on over here? Well, we looked at as of 2021, 2022, when the patents started coming off of the LFP battery, and everybody could make it. Every single major automobile manufacturer, this is not North America only, this is Europe, this is Asia, all moving to the LFP battery. And it's not only in the vehicles, but it's also in the commercial transportation, large scale energy storage. And this is even bigger market because of the benefits of LFP in that, it's cheaper, and you can use a lot of it to make batteries. So it's really lends itself out to these larger scale applications. So now, why? What's going on? Why is everybody choosing LFP? Well, they're non-toxic. They have superior fire safety, which is very important, especially when you want to get into mass markets. Well-defined performance. They're environmentally friendly. They can be recycled, but also this big, really important one here. It's the lowest cost battery on the market. Down here, we look at, the price of cathode active material. Up here, you've got all the NMC technologies and some of the other ones. And down here, you've got the price of LFP. So LFP is, 50% to 66% cheaper in terms of its cathode active material than the other chemistry. So that's holding a lot of weight as well with everybody. and they also have longer life. So because of all these factors, you can put a warranty on there. And don't remember when the automobile took off in North America and Europe in the 1950s and 1960s, it was all about, the middle class, putting a warranty on something, being able to guarantee reliability, safety. And so, that created a mass market, a mass middle class market. So if you look at the LFP battery, yeah, it's the battery of, mass adoption. And it's a battery of, what you would still term a middle class travel, if you will. Okay, so now we look and see, okay, well, what's going on? How is this going to look here? Well, right now, it seems like they're kind of getting towards, neck and neck soon, like, by 2026, 2028, 2030, it looks like neck and neck. 50% of the batteries out there will be LFP, right? And then the other 50% are going to be nickel, manganese, cobalt, or some of the other chemistries. So, LFP is not necessarily a competitor or a threat to NMC. I think they both live harmoniously, and I think there's space for both of them. So I think if anybody's investing, you want to be invested in the NMCs, but then you want to be invested in the LFPs as well, right? The LFP being that big, mass market, the more general market, and with the NMC technologies being, the sort of the more specialized markets, such as, SUVs or something that needs a little bit higher performance. Okay, so the problem we already stated is that all these batteries are made in China, and we got to bring these back to North America very, very quickly, right? So we've already been all over all of this, and here are some of the attempts to do that. And here's a quote from Queen's University, the professor, Pierre Poufal, who's one of the world's experts on sedimentary phosphates, quoting that, these igneous rock deposits that we have in Quebec are best suited for the LFP battery industry. They don't compete with fertilizer, and it's very strategic to be able to have them in North America. Here we go into a little bit of a demand estimate, and I want to caution this is just for EVs. Small scale mobility, large scale mobility, consumer electronics, and large scale energy storage will be much larger than these markets. And these are very conservative estimates. And this is kind of what you need in terms of cathode active material in North America and in Europe on the LFP scale. So we need about 1 million tons of LFP cathode active material by 2030. And so far, there's announcements in North America only to make maybe 15 to 30,000 of it. So where's the rest of it going to come from, right? And this is where First Phosphate wants to fit in. And we think we have a massive opportunity here. And our opportunity is going to be massive because we're going to be able to control the resource, right? Control the mine on the way in, the raw material, and vertically integrate. And by the way, that's no different than the big fertilizer companies are doing right now. They own the mine, and they vertically integrate right to the bag of fertilizer. So when you go into that store and you buy yourself that bag of fertilizer, it's kind of sold to you by the person who owns the mine. And we want to do the same thing with the LFP cathode active material. Use the same model, but instead of applying it to fertilizer, we apply it to much more high value added LFP cathode material space. I just talked about this, how it's just not about EVs, right? Like, electric vehicles is just this little blue dot here, and then you have all this other space. So you can imagine these demand projections, but now blown up by a factor of 300 to 400 with the other spaces out there. I have a few minutes left. I'm going to take some questions now, but I'm just going to kind of show you on the last slide here, purified phosphoric acid and how does it work? These are the inputs for the LFP battery, purified phosphoric acid, lithium, and iron sulfate. And then once you combine those elements together, this is what the LFP powder looks like afterwards, because water comes out and some sulfur. And then after you have this powder, this is where it goes into the battery. So what I think I'll do right now is I'm going to stop there. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer. But thank you for listening.
All right, perfect, John. I think that was a very, very interesting presentation. Not only did you discuss about the project, but basically you came into the LFP technology, its use, and actually the pie chart of everything that's going to be used as batteries. It's not a single solution out there. There's going to be obviously many solutions for many distinctive application. And I would recommend everyone to just please ask your question about to John. It's rare that you have the chance to discuss about phosphate, about LFP batteries. And so please just send your question in the Q&A. So we have a first question, which is, this seems like a complicated process. Do you have anyone anyone in your company that has experience making phosphoric acid. John, before you answer that, let's tweak that question. How much of you guys will become a mining company, and how much will you become a chemical industrial plant company?
Well, yeah, I mean, the plan is to integrate vertically, right? Starting from, there's three pillars to the company, right? There's going to be mining and beneficiation, and then there's going to be creation of purified phosphoric acid, and then creation of LFP cathode active material. To do that, you could see a little bit of our advisory board. These are our members of the board. And in the advisory capacity, we've got serious people here. Yves Caprara was the CEO of Prayon in Belgium, which is the largest purified phosphoric acid producer in the world. We've got his help. We've got Bernard Laplante, who was the founder of Ariane Phosphate, which is a deposit to the north of us. We've got Carl Trudeau, who's been involved in as CEO of Nouveau Monde. Pierre Poufal, who's the foremost sedimentary phosphate expert in the world. Ford Nicholson, who's done lots of large project developments. I think we're very well covered. We're developing our partnerships more and more every day. You'll be seeing some massive announcements from First Phosphate here within the next month or two. We're a company that doesn't sleep. We're a company on a mission, and we're going to get this done.
That's great to hear. We have another question. Maybe in detail, what are your next milestones?
Yeah, so we went through. I think we went through the milestones chart over here, but basically, I went over that earlier in the presentation here. But you can just expect. Please just watch our news. There's just a lot that's coming out, and I can't reveal it publicly. But we're working towards all of our milestones here, right? You can expect to see more on the drilling side for expanded phosphate resource. You can expect us to see going into pilot plant here, perhaps an offtake agreement very shortly. A partner on the purified phosphoric acid side, getting the pieces together on the LFP cathode active material side, partnerships as well. So all of that is coming.
Great. And maybe a question from where you're located. People could be led to believe that you're in northern Quebec, far away from either infrastructure, or maybe even far away from the battery infrastructure. Can you tell us a little more how close you are from all of these?
Yeah, so we're sitting in Saguenay, Quebec. So Quebec City is just down here, 2 hours south. Everybody knows Quebec City. It's the capital of Quebec. And so 2 hours north of there, you get to Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean area. Saguenay is the 6th largest city in Quebec. It's got a great population. It's got an airport. It's got train. It's got everything. You go there, you feel like you're in a part of Europe. It's so beautiful. We are, this property here, Lac Lorignel, is 140 kilometers from the deep sea port, and it's connected by major provincial highway, just like you'd see anywhere in the world, like Tier 1 First World Highway. And then here we've got gravel road that goes up for about 80 kilometers from there, and it's maintained all season round. So we're very close to here, and then we're connected through the port of Saguenay to the rest of the world without any how do we say it in les écluses, without any locks that takes us out to the rest of the world. And we're very close to Bécancour, which is the other battery valley of Quebec. We're looking to establish this as the LFP battery valley of Quebec. There's a battery center, which is called Bécancour, where there's a lot of large players internationally that are at. That's just,
John, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you. I'll let you discuss about the LFP battery plant you guys want to build and the new thing, but time is up. This is it. Thank you very much for your time. You're a very interesting presentation, both on the market, on your company, and on the technology. If anyone have a question, I invite them to write you directly through the website, download the presentation, go look at the news. And thank you very much for presenting, John.
Yeah, thank you very much. And if anybody wants to find us out there, we'll be trading on the Canadian Securities Exchange within a week on ticker symbol PHOS, P-H-O-S, PHOS like phosphate. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good day.
Perfect. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.